Who knew it was going to be so hard to tariff-proof my life? With all the uncertainty around tariffs, I've been wondering, would it be possible to avoid them altogether? And what are the tariffs now anyway?
President Trump plans to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico.
He now says he'll pause many of his tariffs. President Donald Trump has issued yet another pause.
Then Trump put a 10% blanket tariff on all countries, plus a much higher reciprocal tariff on some countries.
China, 34%. European Union, 20%. Vietnam, 46% tariff.
But most of that went away pretty quickly.
A sudden social media post from Donald Trump turned all his tariff plans upside down. Again, I've authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%.
Except for China.
125%, effective immediately.
Phones and other electronics were initially exempt, then not. Then exempt, then not.
Promises made, promises kept.
Oh, and those 10% tariffs, they're unconstitutional. Or maybe not. I think that's everything.
President Trump releasing new tariff letters that outline more so-called reciprocal tariffs.
I need a cup of coffee. I'm on a mission to tariff-proof my life.
How's it been going?
Not that well up until this point. Jonathan Echeverry is the owner of Paper Plane Coffee. His family has been growing coffee in Colombia for 5 generations. And also, strangely enough, he's the voice of Frisky's cat food.
It's new Frisky's wild favorites. Friskies.
What can I have here?
Got some bad news for you. Probably not much.
Not like no coffee?
No, because if you think about it, I mean, the United States doesn't really produce coffee. Obviously, Hawaii's famous for their Kona coffee. There are a few farms in California that have started to produce coffee, but not at the scale that we, as Americans, consume coffee. Beyond the coffee, the cups. All right, so the cups might be assembled here, but a lot of the materials and the raw materials are being produced somewhere else. You know, our retail bags currently are produced in China. Sugar, you know, the packets for the sugar. Think about your milk. The milk that we use comes from local farms. But what about the cartons? Every step along the way is going to be affected.
And where does your actual coffee come from?
We source coffee from all over the world. And so when the big announcement for tariffs came out, most countries were seeing a 10% blanket tariff, which is huge in and of itself. But the second largest producer of coffee in the world, which is Vietnam, saw a 46% tariff. We don't purchase Vietnamese coffee. The coffee that's produced in Vietnam is Robusta. We use 100% Arabica, but Robusta is used in a lot of like Nespresso, traditional Italian coffees, you name it. And so if that goes up, then those bigger companies are gonna look for different alternatives, and so they're gonna start sourcing from Colombia or more from Brazil, and so that price is gonna, it's gonna cause a huge lopside in that cost gets passed on to us because we're buying it at the port. So at the port, the importers are paying this tariff, and obviously they're passing it along to whoever buys their coffee, and then whoever buys their coffee passes it along to whoever buys their coffee.
Well, this wasn't going well, so I decided it was time to get a little more information. Dr. Tom Prussia is an economics professor at Rutgers University and an expert on tariffs. He agreed to meet me for a cup of coffee. Well, at least he got a cup. How do you usually define tariffs for your students?
Very simple. A tariff is a tax on imports. It's one of the simplest economic concepts that apparently is widely misunderstood, not just by Americans, but apparently by our policymakers in Washington right now. A tariff is a tax, period.
And people who think that this tax will be paid by the country that the tariff is hitting, what do you say to them?
That's either profound misunderstanding or a deliberate attempt to misrepresent how tariffs work. Tariffs are collected when the goods enter the United States by the U.S. on the U.S. importers paying the tariff.
Trump has given several reasons for imposing the tariffs: the fentanyl crisis, ongoing trade deficits, and a desire to spark American manufacturing among them. the administration recently reached agreements of 15% baseline tariffs on Japanese and European imports.
It will bring stability. It will bring predictability.
Major trade news tonight. The president announced a deal with South Korea, which of course is a key U.S. trading partner.
But there is still uncertainty about tariffs on goods from many other countries. There's been a lot of confusion, to say the least, around tariffs and a lot of changes around which countries, what products, how much, how long is it going to last? What is your first impression over the last several months? How has this affected the economy?
The uncertainty that has happened in the last 6 months has been currently, to date at least as important as the actual value of the tariffs. Firms simply do not know who to source from because they don't know, when I'm talking to you, what really will be the price if I choose to buy with you, because the tariffs are constantly changing. So between the time I order from you and when it actually arrives in the port of Newark, it could be 20% higher because of a change in the tariff policy. So the uncertainty is the single biggest challenge currently that we're facing.
So I want to be proactive and tariff-proof my life now, before we see that effect. Is that even possible?
Not really. If you want to go live in a small little cabin in the middle of Idaho and grow all your own crops, in some ways you could choose to isolate yourself. But for all Americans who live in the real world that we live in, it is impossible to truly isolate yourself from the effect of the tariffs.
Let's talk about clothing. Is there a way to avoid any clothing that is not from here?
Yes. If you want to buy only personally designed and stitched together shirts from high-end clothiers, you can buy a whole entire wardrobe that's made only in the United States. So instead of paying $20 for a shirt, if you are willing to spend $200 from a very small boutique shop in Brooklyn, you can have your shirts and your pants and your dresses, etc., made in the United States. But not at any large scale. So it might be possible for a few individuals who have extremely high incomes.
I have 2 kids and they go through at least 2 t-shirts a day at daycare. I can't imagine if those cost $200 a piece, I would go bankrupt.
You might indeed go bankrupt, but you have the 2 finest dressed children at daycare.
Clothes are expected to be 37% higher and shoes 39% higher in the short run, according to the Yale Budget Lab. Target, Walmart, and some other large retailers reportedly tried to negotiate with their Chinese suppliers to keep prices steady. But even so, Walmart is one company that said it would raise prices in U.S. stores, and already has in some cases. Only around 3% of our clothes are made in the U.S., down from more than half in the 1980s. There are very few clothing manufacturers in the U.S., and most are pretty pricey, definitely more than the 10% I'm trying to save. I guess we could always go vintage. Luckily, my town is home to a bunch of thrift shops, like Tony's Closet. You know, I'm on a journey to tariff-proof my life. So do you think shopping here could help me?
Absolutely, absolutely. You go to the stores and you're seeing prices increase because of tariffs. Our prices have not gone up in maybe 2 years. And when we have our meeting next week, some prices may even come down. So it's the complete opposite of what you're experiencing when you go to a mall or when you go to a store where they're telling you, sorry, this price has gone up because it's coming from somewhere else. We're not going to experience that here because we rely on donations. So when we're getting donations, it's not affecting us at all.
So what do you do with the proceeds, the money you make here?
The proceeds help support our soup kitchen and our food pantry. So obviously we're a lot more than just a soup kitchen. We have a social worker there who then provides just so many different outreach programs. You could have someone who's helping you with your immigration status. There could be someone else who's helping you with your SNAP benefits. We have someone who's helping you with your resume, finding jobs, medical assistance.
And all that is funded by shopping here.
By shopping here, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And on top of that, it's tariff-proof.
Yes. I think we're going to get a t-shirt that says Tony's Closet, tariff-proof.
Well, I guess that could be a positive ripple effect. And what about the food we eat? In general, about half of the fresh fruit and vegetables imported into the US come from Mexico, but many are covered under the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. A lot of frozen produce comes from Mexico as well. And even if I were to only buy produce grown in the US, that's more complicated than it seems. Is there a way to maybe go to the farmer's market, go somewhere to get some produce that was made here?
Sure. One of the great joys of the summer in New Jersey is that we do have these wonderful local farmer markets. And you will then be able to buy locally grown tomatoes and lettuce and corn. These are a short window of time that you will be able to get locally grown produce. For most Americans, for most of the year, farmer markets are not a really widespread option for us. So in a very limited way, for a limited set of products that you might consume at the farmer's market, you could purchase American only, but certainly not on a widespread basis.
What about my kids' toys?
Maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls.
Well, that's not good news because I have 2 kids and we Americans get almost 80% of our toys from China. Chelsea Smith owns Just Kidding Around Toys, an independent toy store in my town.
Those are made in China.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, well maybe I'm not buying them today. So Chelsea, what percentage of the toys here are affected by tariffs?
So today, about 20%, but that will definitely increase in the next few months.
And then what has it been like for you listening to announcements change and change again and not know what's going on?
Frustrating, frustrating, scary, a little bit of, anger.
How does it affect the business?
We've seen our vendors do 2 different things, which is either they just add a line charge to the end of the order, which is a certain percentage, let's say like a 10% tariff charge, 20% tariff charge. What's great about that is that can be easily removed. So once something is settled, something else happens, they will just remove that charge. But other vendors, unfortunately, are going line by line and increasing prices, and that's going to be really tricky for us. Those prices more than likely will not go back down.
Even if the tariffs get canceled?
Correct. We saw a similar thing happen with the ocean freighter situation a couple of years ago. Prices went up and they never went back down.
In the recent earnings releases, both Hasbro and Mattel reported that sales of traditional toys fell as retailers delayed their orders amid tariff uncertainty. Hasbro also acknowledged that toy prices have started creeping higher over the last couple of months and are likely to keep rising slowly and consistently through the rest of the year. There are almost no electronics manufactured in the US, and the vast majority of smartphones, laptops, tablets, and video game consoles are imported from China. But many electronics got a special reprieve from the China tariffs in April, so products like smartphones, laptops and PCs, smart home devices and routers are exempt. That might be temporary though, and at the end of May, Trump threatened Apple with additional 25% tariffs on iPhones not made in the States. Semiconductors, which are a crucial component of many electronics, were exempt too, but since then face a new tariff that will be independent of country of origin. This new tariff would also hit products containing semiconductor chips, meaning smartphones are back on the tariff list. The US imports most of its semiconductor chips from Taiwan. Can't I buy everything American though?
No. That's right. That's simply not. And this is a tremendous win for the United States, let me stress. The fact that Americans now are not making socks means those same Americans can have a different job, like being an insurance salesman, selling stocks, a whole variety, a college professor. These are all jobs that are now available to Americans because we're not making these products. So you will not be able to come down and have breakfast and be dressed and go to work without being exposed to tariffs.
So I think the only solution might be to buy fewer things, just spend less. Like, is that what it's all coming down to? Should I just spend less?
It is ultimately going to have this feedback effect. With higher prices, Americans will buy less because higher prices are going to have a depressing effect on the demand. So when we aggregate up all the Americans who are similarly consuming fewer items, that's going to cause a slowdown in GDP. 70% of American GDP is due to the American consumer. And so as American consumers purchase fewer goods because of the tariffs, whether consciously trying to avoid them or because of the price impacts of the tariff, this will be a negative effect, and this is going to be a drag. Whether it pulls us into a recession is unclear, but it's going to have a negative effect on our economy. Oh, and just coincidentally enough, your attempt to avoid tariffs is being undercut simply by doing this interview. The cameras we're using, these are made in Thailand. And the mics, made in China.